In order to run our server, let's go back to the terminal and install here a small utility that we are going to be using to run the server. So this allows us to run a node server directly from a TypeScript file. This is called tsnode. Not only an Express server, this could be used to run any TypeScript program directly in TypeScript. So what this will do is it will compile the code on the fly. So now that we have tsnode installed, let's see where the local installation is. In general, binaries that are available locally are here under node modules bin. So as we can see, we have here tsnode. So now let's add here an npm script to run our API server. We are going to create a task called API server, and we are going to use the tsnode version that is available under our .bin folder. And to tsnode, we simply have to pass in a TypeScript file, in this case our server.ts. That is available here under source server. This is our server. So if we now go to the command line and we type npm run API server, this will start a server on port 8090 as expected. Now, if you have been following along the course, you have seen that at this point something went wrong. We are not retrieving the data that we would like. So we need to debug what's going on. It's a great opportunity to see how to use debugging with this tsnode setup. So first, let's stop our server. What we're going to do here is we are going to go to our project, and you will see here, if you right click on npm package.json, show npm scripts. If you do so, you should have here a list with your tasks, your npm script tasks that corresponds to everything that is inside your npm scripts package.json section. If you hit here refresh, you should have an updated list of tasks. Now, if you right click here on the API server task and you hit debug, this is going to start you the debugger. But take a look. You have here a reminder from WebStorm. I will increase this so that we can see better. In order to debug this task, we need to have this option when we start our server. So let's stop the server. Let's add here the node debug option variable that WebStorm requests us to add, and we're going to hit debug again. So now we don't have any warning. So if we collapse this section here and we open a browser, if we go to our file and we put in here, for example, a breakpoint at this point, if we send to our API server at port 8090 a request that starts with /API/threads like we have here, this should trigger our breakpoint. So let's try it out. As you can see, the breakpoint is hit as expected, so we can debug our TypeScript program with this setup very easily. Take a look, you have here in the debugger panel, you have here all the variables that are available here for inspection. So in this case, we can see that the problem is not that the threads per user is not filled in correctly, because we have here 3 identifiers, one for each thread object, and this is the expected result. So let's see what could be going on here. After some debugging, we can see the problem. We are not saving the results of our concatenations. So we are going to say that messages is equal to the results of the concatenation and also participant IDs. So let's try now this modified version of our program. If we run our server again on port 8090 and we hit refresh, we can see that the data is coming back to the browser. So we have here the list of participants of the 3 threads of the user. This happens to be all the participants in the database, but in a larger database with a lot of users, this would only be a small slice. These are the users that are participating in threads that Alice is also participating at this moment. These are the messages that we have returned to the user, to the browser. So these are the messages of all the threads to which Alice is linked to, and these are the threads. So as you can see, there are 3 threads, and it's thread number 1, number 2, and number 3. And as you can see, the Alice participant is there in all the threads. So because we won't be debugging our API server all the time, let's create here a separate task for it. We are going to add :debug to the task, and we are going to create a second task, which is simply called API-server, where we won't be debugging anything. So if you go back to your npm scripts and you hit refresh, you will have here the two tasks. So if you double click on API-server, you will be running the API server on port 8090. So now that we have an API server, a REST API server running in this port, we want to be able to connect to it from our Angular 2 application. We are going to learn how to do that in the following lesson.